Hi. So now we're going to read the Sermon at the River. And this is, for all historical purposes, this is a fabulous chapter, and it's a really good one. If you've ever wondered all the things that Africans have done in America, this is the chapter for you. All right. The Sermon at the River, page 111. 2 weeks before Ned was killed, he gathered us at the river. It was on a Sunday, a beautiful blue sky day. No, you had a few clouds way up high, paper thin. A little breeze stirred on and off. You could see it moving the willow trees down near the water. The people was at the river when I got there, but Ned hadn't started his talk yet. He was sitting on the grass with Vivian and the children. When he saw me, he told me to come down there and sit with him. One of his students took my arm and helped me down the hill. The bank wasn't that steep. I had gone down them steeper than that, but he wanted to help me, and I couldn't tell him no. I had my head rag on under my straw hat, and I took the head rag off to sit on. I used my straw hat to fan. Ned was there with his army uniform looking serious. So remember, when she doubles words, she's really emphasizing how serious he was. I asked him what was the matter. He told me nothing. But Jane, the oldest girl, told me that white people have been passing by there ever since they came down to the river. She pointed at two men fishing in a boat now. They was close enough for me to see who they was. Two of the Lecoq brothers from Bayonne. They made their living on sign boats running up and down the St. Charles River. Maybe you ought to not talk today, I said. That's what they want, he said. When everybody had come there, Ned got up and turned his back to the river and to the men out there in the boat. He told us to kneel while he prayed. After the prayer, he told us to sit down. I looked back at the people who was there, mostly children. The old people had stayed home. I can't remember everything Ned said to us that day. I can't even remember half of what he said, but I can remember some. I can remember it because Ned believed in it so much, and he talked at the river that day definitely hurried him to his grave. This earth is yours, and don't let that man out there take it from you, he said. It's yours because people's bones lay in it. It's yours because their sweat and their blood done drench this earth. The white man will use every trick of the trade to take it from you. He will use every way he know how to get you wool gathered. Remember, wool gathered means confused. He'll turn you against each other. But remember this, he said, your people's bones and their dust make this place yours more than anything else. I'm not telling y'all men own the earth, he said. Man is just a little bitty part of the earth. When he die, he go back in the earth just like a tree go back in the earth when it fall. Just like iron go back in the earth when it rusts. You don't own this earth. You're just here for a little while. But while you're here, don't let no man tell you the best is for him and you take the scrap. No, your people plowed this earth. Your people chopped down the trees. And your people built the roads and built the levees. These same men is now buried in this earth, and their bones fertilizing this earth. I was listening to Ned, but I was keeping my eyes on the Lecoq brothers out there in the boat. They pretend they wasn't listening, but they was listening. Each time they whipped out the lines, they was looking over where he was. You got some black men, Ned was saying, that'll tell you the white man is the worst thing on earth. Nothing horrible he wouldn't do. But let me tell you this, he said. If it wasn't for some white men, none of us would be alive here today. I myself probably be killed by a white man. I know they following me everywhere I go. When he said that, everybody looked at the men out in the boat. Look at me, Ned said, not at them. When the people turned their heads toward him, he went on. But even when he raised the gun or the axe or anything else he might use, I won't blame all white men. I'll blame ignorance. Because it was ignorance that put us here in the first place. Ignorance on the part of the black man and the white man, because the white man didn't have to go in Africa with guns to get us. The white man came with rum and beads. And why? Because we was already waiting for him when he came there in his ships. Our own black people had put us up like pens and hogs, waiting to sell us into slavery. So it's always a tough one, but that is true. And it was the different tribes. So one tribe would capture another tribe and sell that tribe, or whoever they caught in that tribe, and they'd get rum and beads for it. That was how money was used. So we'll give you people instead of money, and you give us rum and whatever else we want. And so that's how the trade went. So that is, all of this is true. Remember, this is written by a black man, and it's a black woman who's telling the story. He didn't tell the white man how to treat us after he got us on his ship. The white man made up them rules himself. It was just his job to hand us over, and he did that, and that he did. Ned went on. I wish I could stand here and tell y'all our African people fought the white man, and there was war and war and war, but that's not true. Our people fought each other, so different tribes, and the white men bought the captives for a barrel of rum and a string of beads. I'm telling you all this, he said, to show y'all the only way you can be strong is stand together. The white man never would have brought us here if we was together. He never would have separated a nation. But little tribes beat each other, and all the white men had to do was wait. Ned was sweating, standing there in the sun. Vivian got up to wipe his face. He told her to sit down, not to come close to him. If the people in the boat shot at him, he didn't want her to get hit. I don't know how old I am right now, he said. I can be 39, I can be 40 or 41. But I've seen a lot in this world, and I know this. I'm as much American as any man. I'm more American than most. And what is this American? I'll tell you what he is, because they didn't have no such thing as American till we got here. The Indian was the first ones here, and they never called themselves Americans. Matter of fact, they didn't even call themselves Indians till Columbus came here and started that. After him, then came Vespucci with his stuff. When Ned said Vespucci, the children looked at each other and started giggling. Ned had to smile at this too. The funniest name any of us had ever heard, Vespucci. After the children had quieted down, Ned went on. Columbus had a black man with him when he came here and called these red men Indians. By the time Vespucci came here and called this place America, you had black people running every which way. America is for red, white, and black men. The red man roamed all over this land long before we got here. The black man cultivated this land from ocean to ocean with his back. The white man brought tools and guns. America is for all of us, he said, and all of America is for all of us. I left from here when I was a young man, but most people thought that was the best thing to do then. But I say to you now, don't run and do fight. Fight white and black for all of this place. You got black people here saying go back to Africa. That's called Pan-Africanism, and I'll go over that. Some say go to Canada. Some saying go to France. Now, who amongst y'all sitting here right now want to be a Frenchman and talk like they do? Let me see his hand in the air. And the children started laughing. Ned had said that to make them laugh. Be Americans, he told the children. But first, be men. Look inside yourself. Say, what am I? What else besides this black skin that the white man called? Do you know what it is? He asked us. First, a nigger feels below anybody else on earth. He's been beaten so much by the white man, he don't care for himself, for nobody else, and for nothing else. He talks a lot, but his words don't mean nothing. He'll never be an American, and he'll never be a citizen of any other nation. But there's a big difference between a nigger and a black American. A black American cares and will always struggle. Every day that he get up, he hopes that this day will be better. That knows it won't. That's another thing about he knows everything. There ain't a thing on earth he don't know till somebody with brains comes along. I'm telling you all this because I want my children to be men. Ned told us, I want my children to fight. Fight for all. Not just for a corner. The black man or white man who tell you to stay in a corner want to keep your mind in a corner too. I'm building that school so you'll have a chance to get out from that corner. One of the children raised his hand, and Ned told him to stand up. The boy was way in the back, and we couldn't hear him too good, and Ned told him to speak louder. Ned told him not to pay any mind to the people out in the boat, because if we had anything to hide, we wouldn't be out there in the first place. The boy came closer to the water. Professor Douglas, he said, you keep saying we ought to not listen to Mr. Washington. That would be Booker T. Washington. But ain't Mr. Washington saying that to keep the race from getting slaughtered? Mr. Washington growed up around these white people. He know a man'll shoot a black man down just for standing on 2 feet. This something maybe the people in the North don't know yet. And another thing, Professor Douglas, the boy said, ain't he saying learn a trade because the trade is the thing that's going to carry this country? The boy stood there with his hands to his side till Ned told him to sit down. The boy sat down quickly, but looking at Ned all the time. I felt very proud, seeing how well Ned had trained them. Ned smiled and nodded his head. He was proud that one of his students had asked him a question like that. He was always harping on Mr. Washington, and there was another chance to harp on him again. I agree with Mr. Washington on trade, he said, but trade is not all. I want to see some of my children become lawyers. I want to see some of my children become ministers of the Bible. Some write books, some to represent their people in the law. So trade is not all. Working with your hands while the white man write all the rules and laws will not better your lot. Now, that other thing, don't mess with the white man and he won't slaughter you. Well, let me tell you a little story. My own mother was killed by white men, not because she was messing in their business. She was trying to leave the South after she heard of her freedom. Her head and my little sister's head was bashed in with sticks. But other people was killed on that day, he said, and many, many have been killed since. I agree many of them have been killed because they stood up on their own 2 feet. But if you must die, let me ask you this. Wouldn't you rather die saying, I'm a man, than to die saying, I'm a contented slave? Mr. Washington might have had the safety of our race in mind. I think Mr. Washington did. But since he made that statement over 5 years ago, over 1,000 men have been lynched. And for no other reason but their black skin. Ned took out his handkerchief and wiped his face, and he folded it carefully and put it in his back pocket. Maybe one day the white man will tell you to leave this country or die in it, he said. There's talk that this can happen. Well, let me tell you this, warriors. He's got no idea how many of us are here. All of us look alike to him anyhow. So he'll count 10, get tired, and not count the other 5. And that's on our side. So this is what you do. I might not be with you, and I hope it never come to happen, but if it come to happen, this is what you do. Let everybody go except one young man in each family. Let that young man hide in the swamps, hide in the field, anywhere he can hide, hide. When the rest are safe, let these young men set fire. As many fields, as many woods, as many houses and barns and cribs he can. Let him run, 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 till his black legs refuse to move, till his black arms hang to the ground. Show them, warriors, the difference between black men and... Ned got quiet and looked at us a long time. His eyes was sad now. Behind him, the river was blue and calm, nothing to disturb the water. But the boat over to the right there. Let us pray, warriors. This day never come. Ned went on. If it do, it'll be the worst day of your life. When Ned got through talking, his shirt was soaking wet. He came back where he was and he laid down beside his wife. Everybody was quiet, thinking about what he had said. I felt Ned looking at me. For a while, I kept from looking back at him, but keeping my eyes on the people out there in the boat. But the longer I looked at them, the more I could feel him looking at me. Then I looked at his face. His eyes said, I'm gonna die, Mama. But I know he had no fear of death. Wow. This is a lot of stuff in here, right? So, Pan-Africanism. Okay. So during this time, so if you do a little Google research, look up Marcus Garvey, M-A-R-C-U-S, Garvey, G-A-R-V-E-Y. Marcus Garvey believed in Pan-Africanism. And what his idea was, so he sort of goes up against W.E.B. Du Bois around this time. So Marcus Garvey is Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is we are all going to leave America and we're going to go back to Africa and we're going to live in a little country called Sierra Leone. And so he was pushing for blacks to leave America or leave the United States. And people like W.B. Du Bois, people like Ned, they're saying, nope, like you need to stay here. You need to learn how to live side by side. This is your country. You were born here. You were not born in Africa. That was generations ago. And so, and you're not even going to go back to your own tribe. We're going to send you to Sierra Leone and you're going to make your own country there. And so none of it was really, it never really took off. Maybe some people did go, but a lot of them stayed here. And so W.E.B. Du Bois, he writes a really fabulous book called The Soul of Black Folks, one of my favorites. And he says, education frees the soul. That's a direct quote. It's up here. I studied this in college and I loved that book, but I loved that quote. And I think that was the moment I decided, I think I want to teach. Because what he believes is if we educate human, right? If we educate people, then they're free. Because now they can do something. So whether you learn a trade, whether you're book smart, whatever, Du Bois was saying, stay here and learn, like go get an education. And an education does not always mean college, okay? So what you're doing at our school at Greater Lawrence, you're getting the education. You're following in this whole ideal of when you know something, and you're fluid in it, so whether you're doing electrical or plumbing or cosmetology, then you can be your own boss. You can make your own rules. The electric company that we use, who comes in, they put our generator in for us and everything, that company is owned by one person. And that one person was a student at our school. It's Cornerstone Electric. And he does co-op with our school now. But he has said to me on numerous occasions, he's like, I owe everything to Greater Lawrence Tech. Because without it, I wouldn't have known electrical. I wouldn't have been able to own my own business. And, he wants to come back and he wants to talk with electrical students on opening your own business, because we know that there's going to be a need very soon. So that's the point that Du Bois is making. And so Du Bois is in direct conflict with Marcus Garvey, same as Frederick Douglass was in direct conflict with Booker T. Washington. And so, if you do what Marcus Garvey wanted, who knows what your life would be. But if you did what W.E.B. Du Bois says and you stay here, which is what Ned is saying, stay here because your generations behind us have labored this earth. You people have sown the seeds in this earth. This is your land. And so he's saying, learn something. We don't need just all tradesmen. We do need lawyers. We need doctors. We need all of that as well. But learn a trade, and that's what will free you. And so I think probably the most important journal entry you could do today, and I will actually put it in our Socratic seminar. How does learning your trade free you? How does it make you independent? So it can be financial independence. So you're thinking about your goals. What is it that you want when you leave our school next year, when you graduate? Do you want to own your own business? Are you never going to work in that field? Because I certainly hope that you've spent your years learning something that you can use. So think about that. How does your education free your soul? Okay, I'm going to leave you with that.